and welcome back to the Lit Review. Today we're going to be doing my wrap up for January, where I tell you about all the books I read in January and what I thought about them. I've kind of found like a system that I think finally works for me, where I'm really just going to be kind of ranting and raving at you. I have what I call like my high bar, the book I loved the most, and I'll be spending some time telling you about my thoughts and opinions on that one. And then I will work my way down to the low bar and just on the way down give you like my star reviewed rating and 1 to 2 sentences of the rest of the books. But then I'm really gonna rant at you about the book that just hit my low quality bar that I just didn't have a good time with. I'll go into explaining what that looks like and why. But yeah, that's mostly what I'm after today. So let's talk about those books. So my favorite book that I read in January that absolutely was the high bar for the rest of the month was Iron Widow by Jiran J. Zhao. 5 stars. First 5-star of the year, and I'm glad to see it. Not only is the cover gorgeous, but the book really blew my mind, which is an excellent combo for me. Thank you very much. I'm very thrilled because this was my pick for the Book Covered Book Club's January prompt of foil on the cover, which is why I'm doing this, so you can see the shiny things. But honestly, the book is fantastic. I really loved their writing style and felt really just like passionately gripped by the character. What I love about this is the female main character, Zetian, is unlikable in so many ways. Like, she is unlikable in a way that I think feels very familiar and very actually lovable despite being unlikable. That might not make a lot of sense to folks, but she is so full of rage and pain for the way she is treated as a woman and the way she watches other women get treated in the society she's living in, that she is what happens when rage boils over, and she is still trying to find a way to make good on that rage in a way that feels authentic and right to her. So I think that makes her abrasive. That makes her not as empathetic as we sometimes like to see our female main characters out there in the world. But I loved that about her. I loved her very passionately for the way that she was angry. The way that this book was pitched in the dust jacket is Handmaid's Tale meets Pacific Rim, and I actually think that's a fantastic pitch for this book because you get all of the very justified feminine rage of Handmaid's Tale alongside the mecha battles of Pacific Rim, and I legitimately couldn't ask for more. I also really loved the LGBT representation in this book. We're looking at the ultimate in love triangle behavior here. I think Ziran Chao is like really cheeky about it because like Zetian as a main character is like attracted to the 2 different male leads in her life. And she also starts to pick up on the fact that her 2 main male love interests are like kind of maybe feeling something together, and she's here for it. She's like, yes, do this. And so it's truly a polyamorous relationship, which is something I frankly don't think we see that much in terms of representation outside of romance novels that are more like why choose or polyamorous or polycule romances. So the fact that this is a bi-poly romance, it's everything. I need more of these in my life, honestly. This is a young adult, but I think it is treading the line of new adult like very, very closely. There were points where I wish this was actually new adult or maybe an adult fantasy, because I would love to see what Jiran J. Zhao does with that kind of license, because this book was violent, it was bloody, it was sensual, but it was just under new adult. Like, it was all within levels that I think are still okay for a young adult space, but man, do I want to know what Zhao does when they're let off of that constraint. Like, I want Jiran J. Zhao to write an adult fantasy or a new adult fantasy just to see what kind of license that gives them, because wow. That said, I still loved this. I gave this 5 stars. I could not and cannot stop thinking about it. I will tell you right now that this ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger, and that the second book is coming out this year, and I will be anxiously awaiting that. I really, really hope that Illumicrate does what they often do, is do like a paired special edition. So I'm kind of gonna hold off on pre-ordering until I know whether or not Illumicrate's going to release a similar edition, since this is an Illumicrate book, because I just really love the styling that they did on this. But if Illumicrate doesn't, best believe I will be buying the hardback so I can have a semi-matched set, because this is honestly probably going to be one of my favorite books of the year. It just like, it pulled me out of a reading slump. I was really struggling at the beginning of January, and honestly was really struggling to even get through half of this. But once the plot like really aggressively kicked in, I couldn't put this down and I finished it in a single day. So it kind of like yanked me out of a reading slump, which I desperately needed. As with all of the books that I'll be talking about today, you'll be able to see over here, I've already put the graphic up, there will be a small list of tropes and trigger warnings or content warnings with each of the book. This is not going to be an exclusive list, so like please make sure that you're checking your Storygraph or your Goodreads if you're concerned about meeting any of those. These are just the things that I was like most top of mind aware of, just so that you can see things at a glance while I'm chatting with you all. But highly recommend this one. I loved it. All right, I really only read 5 books, right? Like 1, 2, 3, yeah, 5 books in January, which I don't think I said earlier. So this is actually going to be pretty straightforward. But for the rest of these, until I hit my low bar, I'm going to tell you what I gave them in star rating and give you 1 to 2 sentences so that we can keep it moving. As we make our way down the bar, Never Ever Getting Back Together by Sophie Gonzalez. I gave this 3.5 stars, and I will be keeping this book. How to describe you. This book is YA, but it's also for people that ardently love The Bachelor, kind of enjoyed the selection, and maybe with like a sprinkle of John Tucker Must Die, if you've ever seen that early 2000s classic, because vengeance is at the center of this bi love story that's set in a reality dating show. Enjoyed the heck out of this. We'll be reading more Sophie Gonzalez. Then I read I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman. I also gave this 3.5 stars, and I will be keeping this because this one made me think a lot. It's an emotionally complex YA tale about a ardent fan of a boy band and the trans superstar that heads that boy band as their worlds collide. It is not romantic, and I think that's a really important thing for you to know about this book. Kind of at my 1 to 2 sentences. I probably have more thoughts on this, so maybe I'll do another video on it. But I had a good time. This hit deep, and there are a lot of trigger warnings here, probably more than I could reasonably fit, so be warned. And then we're kind of like sinking towards the low bar, because again, I only read 5 books this month, so like it's a pretty steep curve. And then, so next, as we go further down, is Hawk by Kat Savage. I gave this 2.5 stars, and I will not be keeping it. Ugh. This book and the next book I'm going to talk about are the ones that put me into a reading slump. This came to me from Hello Lovely's Trope of the Month box, and it's the first time that box has been a big ol' miss for me. Newly single mom gets a job at a tattoo shop, and the owner is a unsurprisingly tattooed, kind of stoic bad boy type. But it just played on some tropes that I was not down for. Like, there's a lot of casual misogyny by both main characters, as well as a overuse of the phrase psycho for people who are completely not unwell. And so it felt like it was trying to be a different kind of book than it actually was. Just a lot of no thank yous, and I will not be continuing on with the series. And last and definitely least of the books that I read this month is one that I thankfully do not own because it was a Kindle Unlimited grab, and it is my low bar for the month of January, and that is Just Say Snow to the Ex-Fiancé by Stasia Hart. I gave this 2 stars, and I will not be purchasing it. I believe it is technically the second in a Kindle's Unlimited series about this park. The park does not actually play that big of a role in this book. It's kind of a tangential thread, which honestly does not give me a lot of hope for the rest of the series. I picked this book up at the tail end of last year, and it kind of like just ended up getting finished in the new year, and oof. just oof. I picked it up legitimately because of the letter J. I was trying to see if I could finish my alphabet challenge for 2022. Thankfully, it at least counts for the alphabet challenge that I'm running for this year as well, because this book drove me up a wall. It completely just broke my brain a little bit. It features a lot of the tropes that I am just not here for, which, you know, some of them are mild spoilers. So just please know that going in, if you're not interested in spoilers, just like look away or like end your video watching here, I guess. But truly it was rough. The tropes that really drive me absolutely bananas every single time are always going to be miscommunication, because like 90% of miscommunication trope is unnecessary conflict of people just not speaking to one another, and that is 100% of the conflict in this book, is that just like nobody was chatting about things, like nobody had an honest conversation, and then everybody got pissy, and I do not have the kind of patience for that. Just be an adult and talk to each other. There's also like secret baby in this, but maybe not in the way you would expect. So there's like a little bit original there. I don't know. But secret baby comes into this, and it just, again, it flows into the miscommunication trope because it's just really easy to have a chat with somebody. Oh God, I'm getting so far ahead of myself ranting about the bad tropes in here. So they're, to me, they are unwelcome tropes, but were also executed poorly, which is the combination was just like, I was doomed. I should have DNF'd this thing, but it was such a short little novella that I was like, I'm going to push through it anyway, and that was a mistake. I gave this 2 stars, and Just Say Snow to the Ex-Fiance on premise alone sounds like it could be very delightful. So maybe for somebody else it could be, if the tropes I mentioned don't bother you. But it follows a kind of relationship expert who is trying to make her debut on basically the equivalent of Good Morning America. Her whole thing is that she has done a lot of research and stats work about what makes a good relationship. But in her book that she's promoting, she also kind of mentions a failed relationship in the past that is still leaving her personally like hurt and smarting. She basically got dumped on Christmas Day and has always had a bit of baggage about it now. So she just like thinks that no good can come of Christmas relationships. So naturally, this takes place just on Christmas. But so she gets this call to be on the Good Morning America equivalent show, but they're like, hey, we kind of need you to have a relationship because otherwise we think you're just a man hater. Which, hi, time out. That is the most arbitrary and obnoxious thing that I do believe happens in society, so I don't think it's unrealistic, but also just Anyway, so she goes with her cousin to a resort in Colorado that has like an over Christmas singles meetup with the intent to find somebody that is like a serviceable partner so that she can go promote her book at the end. Meanwhile, years have passed, but she is still very angry and hurt and wounded over being broken up with, admittedly via text message, which is not great. Not great. And lo and behold, the jilter is the new owner of the lodge that she's staying at with the singles retreat. And of course, they like can't resist each other and all of these secrets get revealed. Look, when the writing is good, when I am captivated by characters or the writing quality, I will accept a lot of coincidences, a lot of foolishness from my plot. Because if the writing is there and the characters and you're connecting with them, I will make a lot of excuses for things if it's good. If it's bad, I get mad. And that's clearly what you're experiencing with me today, because it was so frustrating to read this. I did not find the female lead in particular, whose name, bluntly, her name is escaping me. I haven't said what her name is because I can't freaking remember what it was. She finds out that the reason she got left was something that he should have communicated to her, admittedly, like he is still in the wrong. But like it could have just been resolved with both of them talking through things and setting like responsible adult boundaries. It would have been like maybe an hour-long conversation tops, but they're just that conversationally averse that they don't want to have it. And then the entirety of the novella is literally that premise of their communication. Like, we would rather exist awkwardly and like have uncomfortable tension that's not even pleasurable to read about than have an hour-long conversation about what we want out of this relationship. No. No. Don't do that to yourselves, and don't accept that from your romances. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna stop myself because heated. This book and Hawk, the two of them, I read them one after the other. And that was just like a crucial error on my part because I was so over books, just like that entire genre of art, that I was just like, no, I can't. And it literally took the amazingness of Iron Widow to make me go, I could read books again. That would be, yeah, I like books. That's how bad those two books were. Ugh. Of course, those are just my opinions. So if I have accidentally, like, just deeply hated on your favorites, I'm sorry for any hurt feelings, but I am not sorry for my own feelings. Hopefully this was still entertaining for you to watch, though. Hopefully February will be just like a powerfully good reading month, but we'll talk more at the end of February about what my high bar and low bar is there. Thank you for spending time with me. I hope you have a fantastic reading day or night, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Hold on, girl, now wait just a minute. I've got something to say, you should hear it. Oh, I'm happy to make time for your feelings, but you have to admit I already do. Let's just break it down.